Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes. It's Europa League night and Celtic have pulled it back to 2-1. Thank you every single one of you for getting involved in the streams this evening. What we decided to do, because the action happened pretty quickly, is I just stayed live. Just stayed live on the full-time stream. We talked our way through the entirety of the second half. We were watching with interest, like everybody else, Celtic coming back into the game. And I've got to say, it was a brilliant performance in the end. Colby Donovan getting a hug from Brendan Rodgers. Colby Donovan was outstanding tonight. I'm going to run through the team. Callum McGregor, written off. Brilliant performance, Callum. Oh, here we go. Cameron Carter-Vickers hobbling off the park. We also got Alistair Johnston and Ian Acsom injured tonight as well. So it didn't go all our own way. And we went a goal down. Nygren gets the goal eventually. I think he had 3 or 4 chances. Gets the goal eventually. Johnny Kenny, 5 or 6 chances. Didn't get the goal. Didn't get a goal. Needed a goal, didn't he? So we'll run through the performance. Let us know what you think. We had 1,500 to 1,600 of you strong watching the game with us in the second half. And this is our full-time reaction. I'm just keeping an eye on the Celtic players going round the park and applauding it. And the biggest thing for me to get a result like tonight, and I spoke to Lawrence about this on Tuesday, how much better do you feel going into the Hearts game? Right, yes, we've got the injuries to Alistair Johnston and Ian Acsom and potentially Cameron Carter-Vickers. I mean, that's no ideal, right? We do have that. But see, in terms of an injection of confidence and positivity and that positive energy going into Sunday at Tynecastle, you cannot buy it. You can't buy it. There's no team talk that can give you what that result tonight is going to give you. Absolutely fantastic. So thanks every single one of you for getting involved tonight. I'm going to be bringing up as many comments as I possibly can, and we'll be looking through the performances of every single one of these players tonight. What Ewan, big Ewan Martin saying there is I was about to come off the stream, Ewan said, stay on, you've been a good omen. So we stayed on for the second half. Good win in the end. First half was poor, says Paul Maguire. I get it. It was a disappointing first half. I think the two biggest disappointments for me, Paul, and because I was watching the game and talking live, I've made no notes for the second half. The biggest disappointment for me in the first half was the injuries to the two players. 1 minute, 22 seconds in, Ian Achel's injured. And then we look at Alistair Johnston getting injured in 22 minutes. You're scratching your head thinking, is nothing going to go right for us tonight? And of course, we lose the goal. Some people were critical of Kasper Schmeichel and his part in us losing that goal. I just think it was a great goal. It was a brilliant finish. I did use Joe Hart's save against Rangers in a 2-1 game in Brendan Rodgers' first season back as an example of someone who's a 38, 39-year-old goalie who can pull off that type of save. Some people might think that Kasper Schmeichel is now not agile enough to do it. I don't know. I just thought it was a really good goal. But unfortunately, at that point, you're thinking nothing's going right for us. We've lost 2 players already and we're a goal down. You just thought to yourself, same old story. Celtic are going to get beat tonight, and then tomorrow's bulletin is going to be fun and games, isn't it? Because it's just what happens there is we discuss what's happening in front of us, be that fan unrest, boardroom misgivings, poor performances, defeats at Dundee. And because the subject matter isn't particularly positive, people say, you're being very negative on that show. How can I paint that up any other way? That's just not a very good situation to be in. And tonight changes all that. It changes the tone of the conversation. Much better tempo. Vinnie Russell, I agree with you. Should have been 6. We had so many chances. So much so I might watch this game again tomorrow morning, which I often do, just to try and unpick it when there's no emotion attached to watching the game, which there obviously is live. Just as much emotion when you're sitting here watching it remotely as you are in the ground, and I wish I had been. Joe Hamilton says Kenny deserved the goal. I don't know how many chances he had, Joe. Maybe 5 or 6. And, you know, whether or not he deserved the goal, you look at it and think, you've got to sell in the positions job, try to be positive about this. He gets himself into the positions, doesn't he? I mean, he created the first 2 chances himself. Got to give the boy credit for that. There's also the realisation that if Maeda and Iheanacho are injured, Kenny starts at Tynecastle, Joe. He starts at Tynecastle. I mean, unless you're going to bring Shin Yamada back into the fray, you're not bringing Callum Osmond in because he's never kicked the ball for the first team in a competitive game. At least Shin Yamada has. Do you bring Shin Yamada in if Maeda and Iheanacho are unavailable for the weekend? You've got to. You've absolutely got to. I am in the minority, says Boheed Bob, but that was good. Does that mean you're in the minority? I agree with you, Boheed. Got team back a wee bit there. We did get the team back, and we've been talking about personality or identity of a team. Is there such a thing? Aye, of course there is. And I think Martin O'Neill's team, to hark back to there, I'll not go as back as the 90s guys because I get slagged about that all the time. Martin O'Neill's team, when you think about it, it was a team of leaders. It was a team of leaders. So physically, they were a big physical side, but in terms of the personality, I said to JP earlier on today, imagine sitting in that dressing room and looking about. You'd have no fear. No matter who you were playing, nobody would scare you. You'd look to your left and there's Sutton. Look to your right and there's John Hartson. And then you count the amount of captains in that dressing room. Neil Lennon, Paul Lambert, Jackie McNamara, Tom Boyd. That's a team of leaders. Johan Mialbi, Yusuf Valharan, Bobo Baldi. You're not getting messed about. So I do think you can have certain characteristics, that personality about your team. What was the personality of Neil Lennon's team first time round? I just think it was one of the teams that, the team was far greater than the sum of its parts. It was like, individually some of the guys weren't world beaters, but you put them together in a dressing room and they'll win you the game. It was a bit old school in that respect, I think, with regards to that. Like the 3-0 game against Kilmarnock at halftime, 3-0 Rugby Park. I've asked everybody that I've been in contact with, what's the team talk? How do you bring that back to 3-each? How do you save Lenny's job? And it comes back to the characteristics and the personality of the team, the identity of the team. And it was very much sleeves up, let's do this, Angie's team, it was just tempo. We never stop. We absolutely never stop. And these are what the characteristics that we see, not the ones that the manager tells you you're going to see. Because Ronnie Dyler and Tony Mowbray spoke about football utopia, entertaining football. Did you see it? So what's the personality of this team? It's been kind of like missing, Boheed. So I agree with you. Moan the Hoops, much more like it, says Red Tim. Good choice of avatar as well. Sean Stout, it's one of the ones that's been such a disappointing season so far, Sean. Everything you say ends up in a time capsule on Acsom because it's on the YouTube and it's on the audio and it's all over all the various different platforms that we go live on. So whatever you say can come back to haunt you. But I do agree that's going to kickstart our season, bring on Hearts on Sunday. There are certain moments in a season that can turn your season round. And that probably started with a bad performance against Dundee. And I think that what we're looking for tonight is a reaction to that. You want the players to be hurting big time, like what we do. And I spoke about this when people talk about supporting more than one team or they've got an English team or whatever. I support Celtic and Celtic only. And the only way I can explain it is no other team gets me emotional. I don't care enough about any other team. I don't wake up the next day gutted when we've played badly or had a defeat. Just Celtic. It's only Celtic that does that to me. And in modern football, so much has changed. But one thing that you hope has remained is that the players feel like that. Personal pride, yes, but enough guys that are Celtic through and through. So back in the day of a team in the 1980s, the centenary side, it's made up of Celtic fans, right? We know that doesn't happen now. But I do think that some of the importance of having academy players or the nucleus of your team, the core of your team coming through the academy is largely enough. And they might not have been Celtic fans from birth. I don't think Callum McGregor was a Celtic fan growing up, but as soon as he starts playing for Celtic, pulls on the hoops, he's a Celtic fan, right? So I think that's very, very important when it comes to the academy. I hope it does kickstart. Heavy vibes. 3 players injured. It is a big price to pay. I know it is, right? I know it is. And I think that there might be a narrative or a view or an angle by some who probably looked at this particular game as being a pointless game. And my argument was that it wasn't. But how important was it? Was it so important that you get 3 important players injured for a big game at Tynecastle? I would say, look, it's just one of the ones. You wanted to win tonight. You wanted to win so that you go into the game at Tynecastle with the bounce, with the momentum and the confidence and all these different things that are non-quantifiable. Sometimes when there's not that and there's a flatness, it's difficult to put your finger on what's causing it, right? But to get it back, to get the positive energy back, yeah, that's been worth it. So it was worth approaching this game as a must-win game to keep our interest in the Europa League alive. And by the way, I've not even looked at that yet, so I'm going to have a wee look at the table as well. I was so preoccupied with Celtic tonight that I've not looked at a single other result. I've just been focused on this tonight. So I am looking at the Europa League as we talk. It's been a wee bit ad hoc tonight. So we've done the second half. We've done the full second half live. We're sitting 21st. All right. So we're in that part of the table. Every team in the UEFA Europa League table has now played 3 games. And if you look at the top section is led by Midtjylland. So you think of Midtjylland, you think of Sviatchenko and Rasmussen, don't you? And Ange Postecoglou's first competitive games for Celtic in the qualifiers. So guys like Dane Murray making his debut. I think Leo Bada made his debut in that game. Midtjylland are top of the table. We obviously will face them. Sporting Braga, a team who I didn't think were great shakes, but they beat us at Celtic Park 2-0 comfortably enough. Olympic Lyonnais. So Lyon sitting third. Dynamo Zagreb, a team that I thought we should have beat last season, sitting fourth. Fifth, Victoria Piznin. Freiburg at 6. Ferencváros at 7. And Brann sitting at number 8. You then go into the middle section and you have Celta Vigo, Aston Villa, Lille, Go Ahead Eagles, Young Boys of Bern. We will be playing Go Ahead Eagles, of course. Fenerbahce, Porto, Real Betis, Nottingham Forest, Angie's former club. Bologna, another team we'll be facing. Genk, PAOK, Giakoumakis and Taylor's team. Celtic, just ahead of Panathinaikos by a point. Roma, who will be playing Bâle or Basel, depending on your era. And then in the bottom part of that, I'm going to read it right to the end, and there's a reason for it. Feyenoord, Ludogorets, Sturm Graz, who had 3 points on the board. They were ahead of Celtic tonight, but they're not now. Steaua Bucharest, Stuttgart, Red Star Belgrade, Malmo, Maccabi Tel Aviv, Nice, Red Star Salzburg, Utrecht, and sitting bottom of the table with 0 points, Rangers. So I'd much rather be sitting 21st. So there we go. Yeah, we're doing not bad. Not bad. Could be better. The home leg wasn't great. But it was in amongst a period of time where the mood was wrong. Everything was flat. Unrest in the stands, underperforming in the boardroom when it comes to recruitment. It's kind of like had that hangover effect. And of course, we go into the game tonight. And my argument was, it's an important game. Let's win it. And that's exactly what we did. We've got 1967 people watching us right there. Just thought I'd point that out. So very much appreciated. Thank you all. I hope you're feeling good tonight. Nice wee bounce. Well done, PJ. Well, you know what? Well done, you guys, for sticking with me, because I must have been speaking a lot of nonsense in that second half. It was just whatever came to my head. I was watching the game and I just wanted to talk about what my own observations were. What were my observations? Colby Donovan was brilliant. He was absolutely fantastic in that second half. All he did all night up and down the line, overtaking, overlap, the underlap. It took Nigrin a wee while to figure out that he was the out ball. Once he started playing that out ball, we started getting balls into the box. He probably delivered, and I would need to check the stats on this, he probably delivered more balls into the box than anybody else tonight. Colby Donovan doesn't get dropped now. Colby Donovan's now your first choice right back due to the injury of Alistair Johnston. Anthony Ralston sits on the bench. These are decisions you've got to make. Let's not tinker with things that are clearly working. And Colby Donovan was brilliant tonight. He got an assist. He was fantastic. right? So keep him in the team. Nygren, yeah, Danny, I was critical. I was critical right up until he scored. He definitely had gilt-edged chances. Him and Johnny Kenny had fantastic chances tonight. And when I watch the highlights back, I will be looking at some of them saying, Nygren should have got 2 or 3 goals, no doubt. Johnny Kenny definitely should have been on the score sheet. What would a 4 or 5-1 have done for us tonight, Danny? Talking about bounce and momentum and all this. It was a good win, absolutely. You put your indisciplined child through that 90 minutes. My indisciplined child through that 90 minutes. KT was brilliant tonight. I think Stephen Barrowman, I probably owe KT an apology. Not that he watches Acsom. But going into this game, I thought his days as a left winger, rampaging left winger, down the left wing, I thought his days were gone. But he kind of played that role tonight, Stephen. It was a disciplined role. It wasn't as swashbuckling as Colby Donovan down the right. But I thought he'd done really, really well, Stephen. Absolutely agree with that. Engels, man of the match. What you love to see. I'm giving it to Donovan. But Engels was up there. He was in a discussion. Absolutely. Right. Div McAlpine. Love it. You're looking through the peephole there, Div. Hope CCV isn't injured. Right. What do we do if he is? Dane Murray's the next man in. See, this is the thing, right? Brendan Rodgers doesn't fancy some of the signings that have come in. Paul Tisdale's the talent spotter. And Brendan Rodgers apparently signs off all the signings. So we know all this, right? But here's the point. So we're going into Tynecastle. If CCV is injured, wouldn't it be nice to have 2 options, Div? Right? So at the moment, the man on the bench is Dane Murray. He's a man that's been given the nod as the backup to CCV all season. He's not played much, but he has been the backup. Wouldn't it be great to have him and Simpson Pusey as an option? That's all I'm saying. Just like everybody else in the chat, I don't know how Simpson Pusey, how well he would play for Celtic because he's not played. But it would be nice at this stage for him to have, been given minutes so that when we have this catastrophe of injuries going into the biggest game of the season so far, at one of the toughest away grounds historically, people might argue if you look at our record there, actually, we've got a very good record. It would be nice to have 2 options. That's all I'm saying. I just think it's bad squad management. And I'm not going to be negative tonight. That's all I'm saying about it. Biggest disappointment tonight, says Andy, who was in on the half-time as well, was the injuries. Sorry, not the energy. A lot of positive energy, absolutely. We made lots of chances, without a doubt. And I am beginning to believe we have not chucked it. Big Liam started. He did start it, Liam. Engels, best player on the park. 2-1 Celtic, says Culture. Yes, you did. You did tell us 2-1. Well done. Jungle Line. Let's hope it's a new start. We all hope that, don't we? We absolutely hope it's a new start. And just to prove that we do bring up comments from other platforms other than YouTube, even though that the vast majority of our viewers are on YouTube, Brian comes in on X with a proper old school Celtic pin badge as his avatar as well. Hanging on at the end against 10 men. It happens. They threw everything at it at the end. They were trying to get a point. They were on 3 points coming into this game. And they were trying their best just to pin us back. The win is paper and over massive cracks. You know what, Brian? You might be right. But see, tonight, I'm not looking at it like that. I'm looking at it as a new start. I'm going to go down the Jungle Lion route. And I'm going to say that, it's going to give us a wee jag in the arm. Now, before today, we were talking about, JP and I were talking about what you expect to get from Tynecastle. JP said, I wouldn't mind if we get a point. And I then later on was asked the question about the weekend and said that we need to stay in touch and distance of Hearts. Never thought I'd say it. Never thought I'd say that. But that's where we are right now. So going into it, particularly with the injuries, we don't want to drop anything. Of course we don't. But coming away with a draws, there's worse things could happen, right? Absolutely. Now, Celtic Park, boy, I'm going to bring this up here because I'm not quite sure I agree. Still has COVID vibes about it. The COVID season let's not forget the COVID season, right, involved ball and goalie jumping on a plane, right, and going to Spain to get jiggy with it, right? It involved us signing a £5 million goalie who was a Greek international who never played for Greece again because he had the hologram hands, right? It involved us bringing in Shane Duffy, and one of the most memorable things was a meme of Shane Duffy pleating Diego Laxalt's hair by the poolside in Dubai. And then you had Dubai as well, and the meltdown after Dubai. I don't think it's got COVID seasons. You're maybe just talking about the performances. I would liken it far more to Brendan Rodgers' first season. And Kilmarnock beat us 2-1 at Rugby Park. Hearts beat us 2-0 at Celtic Park. Spoke about it today. And after the Hearts game, I didn't feel confident that we had it in us to win the league. Now, I wasn't quite there yet, but it had the same kind of flatness about the performances, right? The same kind of reaction to the performances from Brendan Rodgers, where he's asked the question after the 2-0 game at Celtic Park against Hearts about being surprised at the performance. He says, no, I wasn't surprised. And I remember thinking after a game like that, you want the manager to throw you a bone. You want the manager to give you some kind of inkling of hope that we're watching something that doesn't look great, but he can convince us that, you know what, we're just in a kind of bad moment just now. We're going to get out of it. So I think this season's a wee bit more like that than the COVID season. The COVID season was just one bad thing after another, one bad situation after another. And Ewan's on form tonight. He's enjoying himself. Sevco 36th, bottom. Yeah, that's fine. And we've also got Will Sad coming in because we're now talking about who do we play instead of AJ. Absolutely no question. It's Colby Donovan, right? Who do we play instead of Carter Vickers if he is not fit? Well, you've got to play Dane Murray. You've got to play Dane Murray. Dane Murray's got to start. If you're playing 4 at the back, Dane Murray starts. Don't think we're going to change to a 3 at the back. And who do you play instead of Iheanacho? Well, I don't think Osman's an option, right, because he's not played. So it is Kenny or Shin Yamada. Does Dyson Maederbaker come back? Is he going to be fit, Will? I know he wasn't fit for tonight. If he comes back, I'll tell you what, we will be thanking our lucky stars. But Will says Kenny not good enough for Celtic. Yamada should start with Hearts. I'm going to ask, Will, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm going to ask those who are tuning in tonight, do you agree with the Kenny comment? Or do you look at Kenny and think, you know what? Because this is the kind of opinion that Quinny's got on a Monday. Kenny's a decent squad player. Kenny's a type of player that is low maintenance and high energy. He came on there tonight, right, with a big part to play. And yes, he should have scored. He absolutely should have scored. But I do think that he kind of ran their backline ragged all night. There was a moment where he drops deep. The move broke down because Rio got taken out. But he dropped deep and he drew their defence right out. And that's the kind of thing that Brendan was always screaming at Adam Ida for. I remember it in the first game against Bayern Munich, where Ida actually got hooked after not doing it. Rodgers went through him like a dose of the salts. He likes his centre forwards to do that. So Kenny is low maintenance and high energy. I think Brendan likes that. I'm going to throw it out though. Does he have the quality to continue within the Celtic squad? And within the squad, I mean, he's in the first 15 picks, isn't he? He is the backup centre forward at this moment. Here we go. I'm bringing this up, Paige, because I get it. My cat's called Scalesy and my dog's called Tierney. Mon the hoops. I'm just going to ask the question, have you ever had a pet named after an ex-Celtic player? Because I once had a cat called Bobo, and that's because he went for me every single time and left me in tatters. Yeah, so he reminded me of Big Bobo Baldi, and I hope the big man is all right. I'm talking about the player, not the cat. He's long gone. Here we go. What else are you bringing in? We've got Lix Aji, who has a dog as the avatar. What's the dog's name? Let us know. Is it Big Matstorovich? Surely get Yamada on Sunday. I don't know. I really don't know. And I'll tell you why. I think there's a stubbornness, and I'm not trying to be negative here. It's just based on 2 periods of time that Brendan Rodgers has been the Celtic manager. There's a stubbornness. There is an inability to see beyond the blind spots. I spoke about it during the week, blinkers and blind spots, or the vehicle analogies. And I was talking about blind spots. He's got a blind spot to certain players. He's got a blinkered view on other ones. I don't know if he's going to bring Shin back in. I really don't. Play 3250. Craig Levine in disguise. I have a cat called Pusey. I seen what you did there, Michael. Yeah, that is very quick. Osmond out of nowhere. You can't do that. You cannot do that for me, I'm afraid. Arnold Lane, the top of the pitch is where quality. By the way, Osmond out of nowhere, right? I'm gonna come back to you in a minute, Arnold, right? Martin Devine, right? I'll tell you why you can't do it. This is my view, and my view only. Feel free to disagree. We had a young player last season who scored 30 goals for Celtic B and Celtic Youth. And when he was playing for the youth, he was playing in the Champions League. So he's playing contemporaries from all over Europe at the very, very highest level, and he continued to score. So people can't say to me, it's just B team goals and all that. When he had to make the step up to Champions League elite level at that age group, he continued to score goals, and that player's name was Daniel Cummings. Daniel didn't get that opportunity. So where's Osmond getting it? Because he's not got a goal scoring record this season. Osmond's nowhere near what Daniel Cummings was doing. So I can't see it happening, and that is my thinking. There's my calculations on that one. Arnold Lane, the top of the pitch is where quality matters. You can't carry players up there. I know. There were so many times I spoke about that ball. Not everybody can play it. Not everybody can execute it. And it's the ball that just drops right in the middle of the last defender and the goalie, right in the 6-yard box. That type of really, really difficult ball to defend, because if the goalie comes out, he can clash into his defender. If the defender gets a touch, he can put it into his own net. And what you need there is you need that quality that you're talking about, Arnold. The striker who just gets on the end of that, scores it all day long. Not only did Johnny Kenny miss that chance, great ball from Annie Engels, by the way. Balaquisha was at the back post, probably with a simpler tap-in. So, yeah, I agree. It comes into quality. Now, listen, I don't want tonight to turn into a negative post-match, because we just had a really, really good performance and win. I'm going to say performance as well. Kenny should be out on loan, not playing in the Europa League. That's maybe an argument. That is maybe an argument. We gave the boy, I think it was a 4-year extension on his deal. And I think the view was to move him out. I think that was the plan. There was talk of him going to Bolton Wanderers, wasn't there? Loan him out, get him in on a good contract, loan him out. If he scores goals there, the value goes up. I understand the way that was thinking. But we sold Adam Ida. We actually didn't replace him in the window, and we ended up bringing in Iheanacho. So Kenny is part of the plans. And Engels, Paradise, Huddle, there we go. Engels was on form tonight. I agree with you. 100% agree with that. John Duncan, I'm just going to get as many. Magic. Wait a minute. Magic Blaze, what colour was your cat? Grey. He was grey. Bobo was grey. John Duncan, you all called Scales. He was our best player. Give Kenny a chance. I'll tell you something, right? Johnny Kenny obviously has an eye for being able to, I think, shut down a defender and dispossess a defender. He's got a good eye for that, right? And I think he's done that all season. In actual fact, if you go right back to the Newcastle game, remember when he scored? And I just think that he's that kind of guy that comes out of nowhere. What does that come down to? Anticipation, positional anticipation, where he's able to dispossess. Whether or not he's got the quality, he's definitely got the pace. Whether or not he's got the quality to finish that, John, I'm not so sure. But he's definitely got something about him. I don't know if he's the answer. I don't know if come January, we bring in another striker and he gets that loan deal that was mentioned earlier, perhaps. But at this moment in time, he's become a very important player for us, John. And he could well be a very important player on Sunday as well. Neil De Prato, good to see you, Neil. You are also on the X platform, and you reckon that Kenny is fine and he needs to get a run. He might get a run, Neil, based on the squad numbers and the squad management, he may well get that run. Johnny Kenny is a better player than Ida, says Alan. Well, Alan, I don't necessarily agree with that, right? Because what I'm going to say to you is Adam Ida scored 20 goals last season. Would Johnny Kenny score 20 goals for Celtic? Ida never started every week. You know, there was a huge period of time where Maeda was the first choice striker. Would Johnny Kenny be a 20-goal striker for Celtic? That's all I would say to that. Listen, this is not about being negative tonight. And I'm not saying you were being negative. You were merely making a point. This is about Celtic going into a game against a Sturm Graz side who were above us. A virtue of 3 points to got off the bottom place Rangers, by the way. There you go. There's your dig. And getting some form of confidence back in the side. That's what tonight was about. And it was about that because we've got a massive game on Sunday. And some people might think it's a must-not-lose game. I think it's a must-win game. I called the Dundee game a must-win game. I think we're at that point where we need to get our noses back in front. And by which time, I hope, by the time that comes around, it's January. And then we can reinforce. And again, there's another discussion about how much do we reinforce when we don't know the future of the manager. Listen, let's leave that to tomorrow. Let's enjoy tonight. Let's enjoy the game. Thanks, everybody, for joining me before the game, at half-time, all the way through the second half, and at full time. And if you want to join us again, we'll be live tomorrow at 12:30 on A Celtic State of Mind.